Hey, I think we're live. It's Diana from An Ageless Life. Movement or moving. Moving can change your mood. Surprising, isn't it? So, what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about the things that you can do in order to change the way that you feel simply by moving. So, just to give you a little bit of background, there's been a tremendous amount of study that's been done in the past, I'd say 2 to 3 years, that talks about the way that you walk, the way that you sit, and the way that you move impacting your mood and how others see you in the world. So Amy Cuddy is one of the people who does a lot and did a lot of experiments with having people before they went for a job interview, and they sat with their arms crossed like this or in this direction versus standing up this direction and being very, chest up, not out this way. Arms are not crossed, legs are not crossed, head is up, and how that actually caused physical changes in the brain. We know that smiling actually releases certain neurotransmitters in the brain as well. So it's not such a far-fetched concept to think about the fact that where and how and when you move impacts your mood. So being able to understand and to know this, and then so now that you know this, the question becomes, what do you do with it? And how do you use this as something that's really easy and that changes the way that you feel? So the first thing that I want to talk about is when you're sitting. And when you're sitting at your desk, and most of us are sitting someplace, we're looking at a computer or we're looking at our iPhones. Where's my phone? Here it is. We're looking at these, and attention becomes very much this direction, right? We're very focused. The head goes forward, the shoulder goes forward. And this is what we call more of a protective stance, or when we are actually going inward, and it affects our breathing, our respiration. We can't get as much air. It affects our digestion. We don't digest our food as well. It can impact constipation because the muscle tone is not right. So there's like a whole host of things that happen when when you sit a certain way, and then when you stand a certain way. For example, if you stand in the same position where you're kind of rounded in the shoulders, head's a little bit forward, really it ages you, right? It makes you look older than you really are because your body basically is not able to get the oxygen that it needs. So it's not as efficient in getting rid of all of the junk that ages you, and you look older. So now that you know all of this, so you know the way that you sit, the way that you stand, the way that you drive a car, all of those things impact how your body is able to regenerate itself, but also impacts your mood. So, what do you do with it now that you know? So, the very first thing that I recommend for people is awareness, right? Pay attention to what it is. And I started out when I started doing this, and what I did was I set a timer. I set the timer to go off every hour. And the timer would let me know that it was time to assess or think about what it is that I was doing. And I used that as kind of a tool to think about how I was feeling, but then to also make course corrections, so to speak, right? I go in, I assess how I'm doing. Oh, I'm sitting with my legs crossed. And what happens when you cross your leg is hip goes up. And for example, see this? This is legs crossed. Or the other example is this. This is legs crossed. I'm not really exaggerating, but this is because the hips and the shoulders make it so that your eyes are level. We need to think about that. So being able to sit right, with our legs flat on the floor, or if I need to, put a book down there, put a footrest, do whatever it is, adjust the size, height of the chair, any of those things. So first step, like I mentioned, is analysis, or just checking in with your body and see what's going on and what you're doing. The second thing I recommend is if you feel tired or you feel crabby or you feel something's not quite right, or maybe you have a pain in a certain area, assess how you're sitting or standing or moving. Is there something that you're doing that makes your body uneven? Or am I sitting with, with my shoulder down like this because I'm reading something here? Is my neck like this because I'm looking up, which all of this in here then becomes very cramped and drawn in. So now that you've assessed and and you've kind of figured out exactly what it is that's going on, now what else are you going to do? So again, using this little beauty, you do your assessment, and after you've done your assessment, throw in some stretches. So the primary stretches that I do are ones that, for example, I'll put my hands here and stretch back this way. Maybe I'll put my arms back here and stretch back behind me here. But I'm doing all of these things that are going to open up my chest. And when I open up these muscles, because they've shortened and tightened because we're like this and we're on the computer and doing all those things, we're going to open this up, and it's going to change the way that we breathe. And changing the way that we breathe, because we're able to have deeper breaths, is calming. It decreases our jitteriness or nervousness or any of those kinds of things. So I'm going to leave it at that today, because these are kind of two big things to think about and things that are super easy to implement. And I always want things that take 5 minutes or less. This does not take 5 minutes of your time to do it. And again, you got this to help you with the timer. Stand up, stretch, move around. But first of all, pay attention to what it is that you're doing. Notice how you're sitting, standing, sleeping even, driving the car, at the grocery store, any of those things. And then you can take action. So this is part of a series that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to continue on with this. And remember, I also have supplement Saturdays. Now, the thing with this is that people have sent me questions or asked me to do things on specific supplements. So those are the ones that I'm going to start with. But as a pharmacist, I can tell you that medications or supplements that you take may not always be the best. So there might be a couple of other things you can do instead of taking something as an option. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.